Alright, so typically on Random 10s we make countdown videos. You probably guessed this because you're not stupid. Anyways, we wanted to make a new top 10 countdown about the Super Smash Bros. Series, but we kept running into two major problems. The first was that any idea we'd come up with had already been done to death. These typically included lists like the top 10 most wanted characters or some variation of that topic. The second issue, however, was more concerning. We would suggest countdowns focusing on the best or worst of the series, such as stages, characters, items, you get the gist. So what was the problem with something like that? I mean, sure, that's a subjective topic, but so is any other YouTube countdown. No, that wasn't the conflict at hand here. The real issue was that, as we discussed and debated list positioning, it became clear that a sort of ratio was emerging for all of our hypothetical best lists. It seemed that for every one entry from the original series of games or Brawl, there was 3 for Super Smash Bros. Melee. Now, at first, this seemed like sheer coincidence. I mean, Melee is the middle child. It's not the freshest in our minds, and yet it doesn't possess the finesse or the nostalgia that one might associate with the first entry, or at least, certainly not as much of a nostalgic factor. Its single player sucked, it had no online, less stages, less characters, trophies, music. In all honesty, Brawl should have been the clear victor. Hell, that game had a development period almost twice as long as Melee's. So how was it that this 3-to-1 ratio kept popping up every time we tried creating a list? The answer is simple. Melee, for all intents and purposes, is the best game in the franchise. We promise, this isn't us being hipsters or nostalgic or purists or anything like that. Neither one of us even owned a GameCube, so Brawl worshippers, please hear us out. Melee has 3 major components in its very DNA that make it the definitive smashing experience. Wow. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why you put Brawl on the shelf a mere month after getting it. Before we can discuss though, we think it's best to give a little history lesson on the origins of Super Smash Bros.
Let's go!
Now, the first Super Smash Bros. Game was a fairly modest hit for Nintendo when it was released back in 1998. It didn't set the world on fire like Super Mario 64, but it did introduce a pretty neat concept for a fighting game. Masahiro Sakurai, the creator of Kirby, wanted to make a King of the Hill fighter in which players would be placed in a set arena and have to create their own combos until they could successfully knock their opponents literally off of the screen. This was done using a percentage system in which hit points were given in varying degree where certain attacks did more damage than others. The higher the percentage counter, the easier it is to smash an opponent off of the screen. So basically, if Link throws a bomb at you at 1%, you might get knocked back a little when you take damage. But if he hits you with that same bomb when you're sitting at 900%, well, you're kinda sorta dead. Anyways, so the game was released, slowly gained steam, and eventually sold enough for Nintendo to greenlight a sequel. In 2000. Which might sound a little funny when you consider Melee came out in November of 2001. To put that time frame into perspective, consider that the new Smash Bros. Was announced at E3 2011, and is only now getting released at the end of this year. And that's if it's not delayed like its predecessor. My point is, this game was rushed, and I mean rushed. You know how Brawl had the Mystery campaign, Sonic, Snake, and like 1,000 songs? Well, Melee was supposed to have all of that shit too. But 18 months doesn't give you a whole lot of time, now does it? But here's where Sakurai's team got it right, and this brings us to our first key factor, innovation. Right off the bat, before worrying about promotion or Sonics or whatever, he worried about the control scheme. You see, at its core, Smash Bros. Has a very basic interface. In fact, the word interface is probably way too complicated to even describe it. It's almost dumb how easy it can be. You use the control stick to move, you shield with Z, and you attack with A and B in combination with moving the control stick. Pretty basic stuff. Sure, you could grab and roll and stuff like that, but overall you couldn't pull off a whole lot in the first game, and even if you could, you'd find it pretty boring. In Melee though, a few minor additions were set up to give the player variety. These include neutral and moving Bs, responsive L cancelling, but most importantly of all, a faster pace and more drop time. This game didn't innovate by going overboard with content, they did it by simply improving upon both the strengths and the weaknesses of the first game, and this, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to Super Smash Bros.' second defining feature, its simplicity. Now, I am in no way referring to Melee as a simple game, or saying it has a simple interface. I actually believe it's one of the most complex fighting games in existence, I know. Anyway, what I mean is that it doesn't have smash balls, dumb stage hazards, or gimmicks that in the end only serve to break your concentration. It'd be like if you're watching a YouTube video and the music goes from nostalgic Nintendo bliss to yodeling. It's interruptive and jarring, which is okay sometimes, but not in a fighting game when you're concentrating to win. I mean, there's a reason the NFL doesn't randomly throw in obstacles as the quarterback is rallying to get a 4th down with 2 minutes left in the game. This game takes itself as a serious fighting game, whereas Brawl seemed to want to be a cartoon version of its older brother. A parody almost, but Melee is a game that, due to its short development cycle, gets right to the point. See, in Melee, you boot up the menu, you immediately pick one of the 25 characters, pick a stage, and you fight at breakneck speed with almost no disturbances. Brawl, on the other hand, is a game where even if you turn off items, even if you pick Final Destination, I guarantee you are still gonna trip at the worst possible moment on your final life. That's just how Brawl is, and that, my friends, is the perfect example of why Melee's simpler interface is far better than Brawl's polished one. So at this point you're probably already won over. The tripping mechanic alone should make it the better game, right? But there's still one feature Melee possesses that absolutely dominates Brawl as a whole. Seriously, you're gonna want to pay attention here, because this one component makes Brawl unnecessary in every single way. Chances are, if you ask any Brawl supporter why they think their game is superior, they're likely gonna say it's more fun. It's a real party game compared to Melee's competitive nature, and they just enjoy it more because of that reason alone. But here's the thing, Melee scientifically is a more rewarding game. How, you say? It's simple, you don't even need a degree for this, check it out. As humans, we strive for progression. It's a fact that improvement and growth is a key component of our species, even down to a cellular level. But it's even simpler than that. Think about it this way. Why do you quit your job? Because you're unhappy? Okay, well, why are you unhappy? Well, your boss is a dick, or you didn't get that promotion. Okay, so what you're saying is you crave improvement. You're bored of your work, you want to improve your position, and you want to improve your relationship with your boss. As people, we need to get better, and more importantly, feel like we have control in getting better. But there needs to be some sort of a curve or visual recognition of things improving. That's why it's hard for people to lose weight. They feel discouraged when they put in the work, but they don't see results right away. They don't feel a sense of satisfaction, and oh, would you look at that? That one little magnificent word is Melee's greatest triumph: satisfaction. Melee is fun on the surface, but as many of you know, it's complex. There's a whole hidden level to that game that's made it one of the greatest competitive fighting games of the last 20 years. But the cool thing about Melee is that there's a fair progression to these different levels. You may start off having only played the first game. You know your attacks and you're getting adjusted to the drop time when, holy shit, did you just hit L and go invincible in the air? Wow, that's cool. Hey, that could come in handy the next time you're attacked. But uh-oh, looks like it leaves me open. So you play a little more and eventually you discover ways of actually decreasing that vulnerable period. Well, now you're unstoppable. At least until your opponent starts wave dashing. Wait, wave dashing? There's another level to this game? How rich does it get? It's little things like that, combined with its new pace, that help open the world of Melee to skill and not just dumb luck, and it's monumentally satisfying each time you get better. The combo system is a lot more fluid than Brawl's, and it really is satisfying when you land one on your opponent. This makes matches intensely competitive, but also incredibly rewarding every time you land a combo that you had control of the entire time. The character is just a character that any person can use, but it was you that pulled off that incredibly satisfying combo with that character, so the experience is more rewarding for your brain as a result. You're seeing improvement, but you're also feeling compelled to get better, so you can continue pulling off the impossible. And this is why Melee just works better. Brawl is slower and more floaty, which makes it practically impossible to pull off the types of reflexive combos that Smash Masters have come to love. And it's precisely why Melee was in your GameCube for over a year, when Brawl just gathered dust. Even with its weaker roster, library, and achievements list, yes, Melee's trophy system was technically also one of the first examples of achievement hunting in a video game, Melee was still overall more satisfying and tapped into our subconscious needs for growth, whether we realized it or not. It truly is an incredible piece of game design, and sadly one that Nintendo seems to have abandoned to pursue a parody of its once deep fighter. The good news, however, is that in recent years, Melee has made a resurgence competitively, with last year's EVO tournament only helping to cement its place among the Tekkens and Street Fighters of the world, which is pretty incredible when you consider that Mr. Sakurai was only trying to give every Nintendo fanboy a fun game to play with their friends. I know I was hard on Brawl, but this game right here is the reason I still have faith in Nintendo. And you can bet I'll be in line later this year when the new games come out, and if you're a real Smash brother or sister, I know you will be too. Thank you for watching.
Congratulations!